So, hi everybody. I'm here with Carly Cahoon from Amethyst Aspens, and yeah, we're just here just to chat a little bit. I'm Cameon. I'm from the Women's Outdoor Connection, and we're really excited because we met Carly, or actually, I met Carly at one of the events. I think it was it the October event that I met you, or it might have been the May one.
I think it was the May one.
The May one, yeah, and I just happened to sit down and we just started chatting, and I was like, "Oh my goodness, I am so already inspired after the first sentence." So,
Mhm.
I just wanted to chat with you a little bit and, just get to know you better so then the people that are coming to our event can know you as well. So, tell me about yourself. Let's start there.
Yeah, like my name is Carly Cahoon, like has been stated. I am from Salt Lake City, Utah, but have been here in Seattle for a couple of years. Was going back and forth for a while and then moved here full time just over a year ago. So I'm here, I'm digging in, trying to build community around the outdoors, which is something that I'm incredibly passionate about. Um, I'm I'm lucky to have gone back. I went to graduate school and um, did a thesis project and defended research around women's experience in the outdoors and how much impact that can have for our sense of self and how we view ourselves.
I love
And
that.
just found it an incredibly enlightening experience to I guess, put to paper something that I've always felt and
Mhm.
have something concrete at the end of it, proving what I've always known, which is that the outdoors are such an incredible resource for us to utilize in a much broader sense than just recreation. There are so many benefits to being able to connect in really intentional, meaningful ways with the outdoors. But also being part of a city that is very much part of the outdoor industry arena. Um, I really wanted to figure out how do we communicate that and make outdoor experiences accessible to everyone. That it doesn't have to be about all the gear, it doesn't have to be about the big extreme things, but that it can also
Yeah.
be intentional connection with nature in our neighborhoods and even in our homes with plants and the care that it takes to keep plants alive. So it was just something that I really dug into, was really passionate about, already having lived those experiences and also worked in outdoor industry for so long. So
All right. That's
that's a
awesome.
little bit of background. Yeah.
Yeah. So, what would you say is one of your biggest challenges in Seattle? Like being newer in the area, what do you think is one of your biggest challenges as far as the outdoors are concerned?
Yeah, that's a good question. Um, it has been an interesting entrance point as an out of stater coming into
Mhm.
the outdoor experiences is finding groups and people who want to experience outdoors in the same way I do. And I think throughout my life and in the 40 years of life, my outdoor experience motivation has shifted. Uh,
Mhm.
my body has shifted, my body has changed. And so it's been a bit of a challenge to try to find people who want to go at the same pace as me, which is just I want to experience. I want to go, I want to
Sure.
have outdoor experiences across the board and all sorts of different activities.
Yeah.
But I will not be top speed or top athlete or top in any of them. And so trying to find that group, a really inclusive, open group, uh, presented itself as a challenge. But I think opportunities like these conferences and
Mhm.
uh, connections with women in the outdoors has been really positive and given me a broader community to do so.
Good. Yeah, and that's really one of the main reasons that Andrea and the team have put together the Women's Outdoor Connection is because what we're finding is, so not some of us are younger and some of us are older, and we wanted to make it a space where, all different levels of activity, could be presented and shown that, there's a connection that you can find. I really love the concept that you have mentioned about like not having to have all the gear because I think a lot of times we really focus a lot about like the cost. I mean, for I'm a big skier. I love skiing. My mom was a World Cup ski racer, and so I grew up, I basically grew up being told like it didn't matter that I was a woman, it didn't matter that I was a girl. I was going to, ski and do things that most women wouldn't do. My
Yeah.
mom raced against boys and won when she was in the 50s. In the 50s, it definitely wasn't something that women would generally be doing. And I think one of the things that she always said to me is like, it's not about what you have, it's like about getting out into the outdoors and, you'd be amazed what you find. Like sometimes I know when I go hiking, um, I can be up in the mountains and just myself, my hiking shoes, good pair of socks and a backpack and some water. And it's the connection is just it's other is kind of the way I describe it. Like it makes me lose some of the bigger problems that I have, like if the big city problems, I guess is the best way to put it. So what would you say was one of the most memorable memories that you have outdoors?
Hmm. I've had so many. I can think about I did some really incredible things as a kid. I had a family that was very outdoor focused, and so much of our experiences were backpacking or as a family with my parents and my brothers, we all summited the Grand Teton. Like those things were
Mm,
incredible. I loved them. But I also find equally joyful like this I'm not currently in my house. I'm in a borrowed space, so I'm not in my office, but um I have so many plants. Like I find as much joy taking care of the natural world in my space and making it part of how I exist and how I
mhm,
care for things and how that care is cyclical, that what we give, we get back.
mhm,
I find that just as enjoyable as I do when summiting a mountain or having a really fun surf weekend out on the coast with other women. Like those are so joyful for me, but so are the intentional everyday pieces.
yeah.
Uh, and
There's
and
like
what
there's magic that happens. Like I was kayaking the other day out up north and you know saw just this bald eagle just like come like right over the top of where it was, and it was so quiet and so peaceful. But then all of a sudden there's this giant seal is like maybe 15 feet from the kayak, and I'm like, I hope the seal doesn't come and knock me over. But it was just, those moments just make you really feel connected, I think is what I enjoy about the outdoors. What would you say is one of the most major challenges as you built your message? Like what, because this is your career, and what is one of the biggest hurdles that you've had to go over, you think? That's a big question, I know, but
yeah, I well, it makes me think of a couple of things. Like as even as you were just talking, I'm like, these things are magical because the outdoors or being in a natural world or being with natural things takes us out of how we exist every day. And as women, our existence is in the world is very objectified. We are minimized to what we look like and how we're being perceived in the world. But when we are part of the natural world, our brains get a break from viewing ourselves as others would view us, and we become part of this bigger entity. And I think it's how do you easily teach that and talk about that and encourage that when you have short interactions with people? Like it's such a broad um and in-depth way of thinking and intentionality of it. It's hard to um it's hard to get someone the buy-in of that, to get the
mhm,
buy-in of the actual huge impact of body image and self-discovery that the natural world can have when maybe it's just a collective yoga session or a collective hike that I'm going on with friends or with a group of women. So I think that's the challenge of how do you take this really big impactful topic and um, make it make sense for a broad group of people and make it feel like, oh, this is something real and this is something that I can incorporate in my own life.
yeah, I think it's hard too in our society. We're so instantaneous. Everything's, it used to be our grandmothers, great grandmothers, when they would make I'm also a chef, and so like when we would make things, you'd make them from scratch, and you'd have to go to maybe the butcher, and then you'd have to go to the baker, and then the produce stand. It wasn't this big Fred Meyer, no offense to Fred Meyer, or Costco experience, and I think we've really lost touch in that about that in our society, taking time and effort to come out with something beautiful in the end. And I think one of the spectacular things about getting women outdoors is, even me personally, it takes me about 25, 30 minutes of getting onto the mountain before my brain stops freaking out, like
Yeah,
where I start to like just be one with what I'm doing and notice what my body's able to do and accept not only notice it, but celebrate it, and I think I would think that one of the biggest challenges and one of the things we run up against in the ski industry a lot is that people they have fears, that they're not going to do it right or they're not going to do it correctly. And it's, that connection of fear, I think, is something that the outdoors really helps you overcome, in a lot of ways, like those
yeah.
challenges for sure. Yeah.
In experiential education, which very much the outdoors is the ultimate uh, teacher through experience, but there's a model in experiential education that talks about flow, and that you can really only be in your flow if you feel that push on your fear or your ability, or like something's making you nervous, but then you're given the skill set to overcome it. And that's when you're in
Yeah.
flow. And so that was a big push for me, is how do you make sure that every participant in outdoor experiences gets the same push, or a push for them, but then are given the tools. Because you can host, you can have an experience, you can go with friends, and you're all at different levels.
Mhm.
So how do you have an experience that feels fulfilling for everyone? And I
Yeah.
think that kind of a rebranding of outdoor experiences too, and something I've had to experience as someone who has, for various reasons, my physical ability has waxed and waned my whole life.
Mhm.
And sometimes I'm in it for the distance, and sometimes I'm in it for the experience. And I have found
Mhm.
that if experience is first before output, so if I'm going to have this experience to connect with myself and to connect with my ability before I'm going for distance or calorie burn or achievement, my experience is much more sustainable. What I learn, what I get from them, is much more applicable to future experiences and future introspection of self and how I view myself in the world.
Yeah, that's lovely. I really love that. What do you think the Women's Outdoor Connection is going to help provide community? Like, what was your experience going to the event?
Yeah, it's truly been a really beautiful experience for me. I mean, let alone I've gone to a couple events based off of people that I met at the event, and had really beautiful experiences, and have made some friends. And it's that, I mean, that alone was worth it. But the conversations that are happening around women in the outdoors, the openness and the kindness, and the ability to uphold space for everyone to have their individual experience, has been really cool to witness,
Mm, so cool.
especially coming from the outdoor industry and being in rooms that have been full of men for a long time.
Mhm.
It's really beautiful, and uh, I think filling to have an experience where everyone's open and wants to hear and wants to learn and wants to have new experiences and make community around it. That it
Yes,
isn't
and
just,
like celebrate each other too. That's
yeah,
the part that I'm really getting a lot out of it as well. And even as one of the leaders, like I'm getting, and I found this as a teacher, like because I also teach other athletic things, and I found like there's so often I get more from my students than I feel like I even give them, there's just, and as a teacher, that's a really common reaction, and probably one of the reasons a lot of people teach, it's certainly not for the money, but
sure, sure.
but
Yeah,
I
I
think that's. That's really cool that you're getting that. That's our expectation. That's our goal. And really our goals even are changing some because as we're meeting people and having conversations, we're learning what other people are wanting and needing, which I think is really neat. So, what is there maybe one or two people in your life that you think were like the most influencing at this point?
I mean, I there's a handful of people, but I had a grandmother who was skiing into her 90s. Uh,
Ah,
did her last ski run when she was 92. And I have a mom who is still getting after it and is backpacking more than I am and
yeah,
skis harder moguls than I have ever or will ever ski. I
good for
have these
her.
women who have had incredible spirits about being in the outdoors and letting it be part of their it's part of their narrative, part of their personality, part of their own healing, and how they've dealt with the hardships of life has been very much part of the outdoors. And so they have been incredibly inspirational to me about taking what they've done and how they do it and then internalizing how do I want to incorporate the outdoors in my life and these experiences. And so yeah, my mom and grandma were incredibly influential. But then I love the variety of the like hardcore go-getters and then those who are going to experience. Like I like all of it, and I'm
Mhm.
so pumped to see women do it all and have these experiences that are meaningful. You know, there's some interesting research that points to that men often feel and get out of outdoors as if it's a recreational sport, the same way they would feel playing basketball or football or whatnot. But women, there's really this spiritual connection to
Mhm.
the natural world, which I ended up going down to Guatemala, and I did part of my research in Guatemala looking at an indigenous belief system called the Mayo Cosmovision, which is this idea that our selves are half, we've got a masculine and a feminine energy, and the masculine is what they call the heart of heaven and the feminine is the heart of earth.
Mm.
And it's a feminine way of connecting, and indigenous culture had a belief around asking others how their equilibrium was, like how are you balancing those two parts of you, how are you balancing this connection to earth and this connection to something bigger than ourselves. And I loved that idea of the that the women have we have these spiritual experiences because that's we're part of this feminine natural world, and it really connects us to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah,
um
which makes I feel that makes us more powerful. I mean, I
yeah.
really do. I mean, my mom often said that, she's like, if you're quiet enough, then you can see.
Mm,
And I think that that was really important for me to hear as a young child, that I mean, of course, at the time, I think I probably was like, okay, whatever, like whatever, mom, you know nothing, but as I've gotten older, like these little tidbits sort of show up, like and remind me of where I came from and what I'm made of and how important it is for me to stay connected to the earth. I read somewhere that one of the reasons you used aspens in your company name was because of the link that aspens have underground.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
that. That
yeah.
is really cool. And the reason I have personal reason for loving that as well because my mom she ski raced in Aspen and she loved aspens. And when my father and her purchased their home in Bend, Oregon, like 25 plus years ago, um, she came home one day and my dad had planted 3 aspen trees by the
Mhm.
pond. And we watched them grow over time. Unfortunately, my mom passed away 2 years ago, but we scattered her ashes
Uh,
on those aspens because there was also a weeping willow where my father's ashes are scattered. And I just think that connection to earth, is really important. If there was something you could talk to your younger self about, is there any? I mean, I'm sure we all could read a novel, right? But is there any specific like wisdom that you would like to give that younger Carly that maybe was struggling?
Yeah, I think all goes back to what I've already kind of touched on is the idea of you don't need to look or be or perform at a certain level um to enjoy the outdoors. Like you don't have to um be able to climb the highest peak. You can go and experience the outdoors, and that showing up is enough. Showing up for yourself is enough. And if you have any interest in anything, you have full capability of trying. You have full capability of being able to give it a go. That you don't have to be perfect in everything. You don't have to be good at everything. My new kind of life motto is like, I'm a mediocre person and I love it. Like, I love just being mediocre in things, that there isn't this self pressure, or I don't allow community pressure or societal pressure to be or look different than I am, and that I can still show up. Um, and I often, I mean, I don't know about you, but I do so much inner child work of being able to just be with my younger self and have these experiences, knowing she's part of it and that we get to create something new together. And I think I wasn't modeled that exact way of doing things, because that weren't conversations in society about how to do things differently. And so I just want to be part of, exactly like you were talking about, is a healing space for women. So Amethyst and Aspen is my company name, and amethysts are a healing stone, and aspens, they used to be, they're no longer. We're the largest living organism, like such a community root system. And I just want to be a rooted healing space for women to have whatever experience in the outdoors they're seeking and they're trying to find.
Oh, I absolutely love that. I'm so happy that we connected. I'm so happy that we met each other. I know that we're excited to have you come join us you're going to be there October 26th with us, I hope, and I'm hoping that you're going to make some more connections and people get to connect with you. Is there anything that you want us else that you want us to know before we close?
You know, so when I after my research, and I finished it all up, I was starting this company to um create these events for women as well. And something stopped me from continuing that, of wanting women to find themselves. They don't need to find me to find themselves. And just want that encouragement of women to be able to have space to have these experiences on their own. And I guess all I want anyone to know that's going to watch this or is at the event, like, I am so excited for women to have these outdoor experiences, and I'm happy to make those connections and to go do events with anyone. I'm not hosting any currently, but would love to make friends and build community around um, intentional, meaningful connection with nature, so that we are most intentionally connected to ourselves.
That's great. It really glows from you, just so you know.
Oh, thank you.
It really, really does. I mean, and makes me a little bit emotional actually. But like, no, it's really wonderful to meet people that you can see it. It really does. So
Thank you.
I know there's days when sometimes you probably don't feel like it, but today, hopefully, know from me that you're amazing, and I'm so excited that you're part of this. So yeah.
Same. Thank
Yeah.
you.
So thank you, everybody. Again, Women's Outdoor Connection, October 26th. We're at the Collective. If you're wanting to get tickets, they're still available, and we're excited to see you. So thanks, Carly. Have a great day.
Thank you.